my vision was that no matter who I would be with, that I might get trapped.
Right.
Right. So understanding that on a different level, understanding that made me someone who would put, if love came my way, I would block it out. Because that way I was safe. I would never get trapped.
This is a special episode, and it is brought to you by the Ultimate Love Attractor Plan. The Ultimate Love Attractor Plan is a game-changing 6-week transformational program. And in this episode, I get to interview a wonderful, wonderful woman who went through the program. And honestly, our conversation brought me to tears. So the Ultimate Love Attractor Plan is a program where I help high-achieving single women who have everything in life but a partner to break free from being mislabeled as intimidating, unapproachable, and sometimes overqualified for love by teaching them the framework to uncover hidden barriers that stop them from sometimes loving themselves and then attracting the picture-perfect love they deserve. So if you are a woman, a high-achieving woman who is frustrated about not finding love and you don't understand why you haven't found it, I want you to schedule your free call with me to find out more about private coaching experience, group coaching, and e-courses. Enjoy the episode.
I am what you call a mature woman, a woman of a certain age. And I have had a most incredible life up to now. I mostly focused on a very, very successful career. So I was very much a workaholic, but I had a wonderful, wonderful career. I've had a number of relationships over my life, but as it turned out, I never married. So I'm probably looked at, it's nice to say that I've been admired and I work with a lot of younger women and things like that because of the career that I've had. Mm-hmm. But I'd have to say, some of it came at a price. I made a decision not to get married, but then also was in a position where it didn't happen anyway. So it's kind of a mixed bag, but I'm proud of who I am. And as I say, I'm looking at the program that I did with you as somebody who is more mature.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, thank you for that. And so you speak about the program that you and I, that you went through. And so let me ask you first, why do you think you were looking to work with me, the Love Guru?
It's a really good question. It comes back to that maturity, is that I want to be really clear, is that I didn't set out to work with you because I was looking for a mate. Mm-hmm. Matter of fact, I had a lot of mixed feelings about that at my age. I'm in my 60s. So there was the fear of meeting somebody and maybe them, one of us getting sick or just too late or all of those things that women my age look at. Mm-hmm. But what really struck me that I needed to do was I would say that I think everybody has 4 chapters in life. Let me put it that way. And I think I'm in my 4th chapter of life. And so I was starting to feel like I'm really stuck somewhere and I have work to do. Mm-hmm. And it kept coming to me that all the work I had to do was around the word love and the subject of love. I've had great friendships. I have the most incredible friendships. But my relationships with men, in my case, and men in relationships with my family and everything have been always very strained. And I've even been through a lot of therapy for all of that. Mm-hmm. But it just kept coming back to me that I'm stuck around love and what that really means to me. And so when I heard about your program, I thought, you know what, this might something I should look into. So that was my reason for coming to you.
Oh, well, thank you so much for sharing. Of course, it was such a pleasure and honor to work with you through the 6 weeks that we went through. And I'm so grateful for that opportunity to serve you. So what do you think were the barriers to you not even thinking about love? Because you talked about the 4 chapters in life and you said mm-hmm. You're in your 4th. And in this 4th chapter, the word love is sort of surfacing up for you.
Yeah.
why do you think that there were barriers, or were there barriers before?
Well, and keep in mind, partly I learned that from you, right? That there could be barriers to this.
Right.
So, but let me give me an example of what happened. So for my last birthday, and birthdays at my age are, you do come up and think about things, right? So last year's birthday, which is last May, so this is almost a year ago, I was in lockdown like everybody else. And in my neighborhood, my neighbors went to an extraordinary lengths to make my birthday unbelievable. So a friend of mine, brought lunch and took me over to a beach, and it was warm enough that we could have lunch together outside and social distance. I came back and the entire neighborhood was waiting for me lined up along the street with balloons and flowers and placards. I mean, it was like something out of a movie. Mm-hmm. And then the rest of the day, I had a Zoom call with, I thought was going to be my best friend. And she got on the line, and there were 25 people from all over the world who knew me that were on that call.
Wow.
And then after that, if the day wasn't over then my family got on the line, and they too had more people than I thought. So, but here's what happened. Of course, it was extraordinary, but I shut down emotionally for 2 or 3 days after that. I literally went to sleep, and I couldn't get out of bed very much. And it was like this wave of depression hit me very hard. And I didn't know what it was about, except that I felt like, okay, something's wrong here. Why can't I take this in? And it really was a question of, I didn't know how to take in the love.
Oh, wow.
And so that was the big defining moment, which made me realize that I'd been like that all my life. And other stuff happened, which I'll tell you about in a minute, but it was like that really was the thing that just thought, wow, here I am being showered with love. And I don't know what to do. So I knew that I was really stuck. And I knew that your program really works on those things, that there are hurdles to love for a lot of people. And that it's not a question of you can't find the mate, or the mate is not right, or you've never been able to find the right person. What I learned from you is that it's more about, you can't attract the right person if you're not in the right place.
Right.
If you're not someone who can take in love. Mm-hmm. Right. So that was the beginning. That was the reason that that was the reason, and also the biggest barrier that I had.
Wow. Thank you for sharing that. And that's one thing that I love about this work that I do, is that, not only does it help you become a love attractor, but, it works in like helping you with that inner bonding, whatever those things that you need to work with, on yourself. And then also the relationships with, outside of romantic relationships, other relationships also thrive as a result of that.
Yeah. So, and you know what? And to take that further, because that was sort of the catalyst, if you want, right? Mm-hmm. But then what helped me during the program was, and we do this in therapy too, but you actually put a different spin on it, which I liked, was we looked at my background. And, we all have the family story. I call that the first chapter. Is everybody's influence. You grow up in a family, and your family influences how you're shaped and what you become, or what you decide to become. Mm-hmm. And the relationship between my father and my mother was very difficult. I mean, my father was a former fighter pilot. He came home from the war and was an alcoholic and quite abusive to my mother. My mother, who was a very creative person, ended up being incredibly trapped in her life. She was of a generation where you don't leave, and she had nowhere to go anyway. So I grew up watching my mother become diminished day by day. And the word that always kept creeping up in my life was she was trapped. So the barrier that I realized, with not being able to take love in, was what I learned from you. But where it all started was that I didn't want to be trapped like my mother. And my vision was that no matter who I would be with, that I might get trapped.
Right.
right? So understanding that on a different level, understanding that that made me someone who would put, if love came my way, I would block it out because that way I was safe. I would never get trapped. And I, as I said, I knew some of this, but I connected the dots in your program. And one of, and continue that is that I think the coolest thing that we did was, and there were so many cool things, was when you sent out a questionnaire to my friends.
Oh, yes.
The people who love and know me so well. And what do we have? Maybe 10, and we had maybe 6 or 7 who came back. And the answers that they had to these questions really put me in that spot, because all of them seemed to say, I'd given up on love. I figured I was just, in this bubble of protecting myself. Like they saw me better than I saw myself.
Yeah.
And so that was really helpful. But anyway, to come back to the point is that feeling of being trapped as a woman, I think many women also feel that, depending on their background. But that was mine. That was my big hurdle to love, is that I felt trapped.
Yeah. No, I'm glad you brought up the blind spot blueprint, because it's one of those very, very important ones. But, what I've noticed with the clients that I've worked with before, whenever I talk about that particular, framework, they are very hesitant to wanting to know what their loved ones would say about them. And so, but yet, and it's very important, and I'm happy to hear that you found that to be very helpful in your journey.
Well, and also for anybody else that's doing your program, I think you can say to them, my experience was that when you pick these people, these are people who love and want the best for you and have your best interests at heart.
Right.
So they're not, even though we're asking them to be perfectly honest and actually tell us some hard truths, what they do is they do it with great affection. And it's really just an eye opener to realize how much they would love me to have love in my life. Right. That really, really hit home with me, is that they felt I was missing something. And as I say, it wasn't the finding somebody so much, was just feeling love from them.
Right.
Yeah.
No, thank you so much for sharing that. I absolutely agree with that. And I'm happy to hear that you found value in that particular exercise that we did. So, I hear all these great things that you're sharing about the benefits that happened or things that you learned, but what were you hoping you would get out of the Ultimate Love Attractor Plan when we first started talking about it?
Well, I don't think anybody going into this program will know exactly the magnitude of what they're going to get out of it, because it is the journey. However, going in, I really needed, as I say, I knew I was stuck. So I needed a really safe and comfortable environment. I needed to talk to somebody who was trained and has the expertise in this particular area to be able to listen, direct, and move me along. And, somebody like you, Canoe, it's instant trust with you, because you do really, you take in the information, you listen, you ask all the right questions. And I felt safe, and I needed to feel safe in order to do this process. So I learned, that's what I was hoping. It's just that I would be able to do this work in a very safe environment.
Right. Yeah. And I thank you for saying that. And I think also, you have to feel safe. Absolutely. But also I feel like you have to be ready, and you were ready to hear the information, to go through the process, and you gave yourself permission to really be vulnerable, right? And share all these things that have helped you along the way. So
you nailed it. I was ready because it was bothering me, but you're right. The word is being vulnerable. I think women really have a lot of trouble being vulnerable. People do in general anyway, but and what I want to just elaborate on that is just that being vulnerable with you was not a scary thing. It was a very comfortable thing. And I've protected myself all my life. I have very big career, very public career. And I really had to put a shell around me to protect me and have an image of myself that I wanted people to see. So for me to be vulnerable, especially in this way, I thought would be very difficult, more difficult than, I would have imagined, but it wasn't. I was ready, but I was also, you helped me get vulnerable and realize that vulnerability is the key to everything.
Right.
The key to everything. So thank you for that.
Oh, you're so welcome, and right back at you. Thank you for putting your trust in me and your trust in yourself to make this investment. Really, I think it's an investment, right, in terms of time and money and everything to work on yourself. So,
no greater investment. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
So, what do you feel like you discovered about yourself through the journey of working with me?
Okay, don't get me started here. This is good. I would say really two big things, and then there's a lot of spin-offs, so I'll get to that too. But what I really loved, the values exercise, where you come up with the values that are important in a relationship, whether it's with a partner or even your friends and family. And I've done that exercise in other situations, nothing like this, of course. But what really hit home with me was when you just said, like, these are the things, let's say the top 5 things that if you have a relationship with somebody, whether it's your partner or your best friend, what is really the things that are non-negotiable, And so for me, one of them, and it came as a surprise, even though I'm in the communications, I'm a journalist by trade. What I really look for in a relationship is a deeply connected communication, where we're allowed to talk about what we really are interested in. And that deep communication, I've been looking for it all my life in a partner, and realized that most of the partners I had some element of that, but most of them didn't have it, not on an emotional. So I maybe deeply communicate in an emotional way, like emotionally available. Let's put it that way. I wanted an emotionally available relationship where we deeply connect and communicate. And so that value came so strongly to me, and I can't underline it. For people, it might be something else, But for me, that just going, of course, I'm a communicator by trade. Why wouldn't that be so important to me? But I actually made a lot of compromises in my life with people because I didn't have that connection. And yet I tried to say, okay, that's good enough. But it wasn't, even for my friends, it wasn't. So communicating on a very deep level. But the other thing, and this was really, and I've actually learned this since doing your program that's come up for me, is that I was not coming to the table.
Oh, that's a big one.
And I'm going to explain it. So people were trying to bring me into their lives, and I couldn't handle it. So I backed away or found a way to make myself a bit of a victim. And this is really what I've learned. I learned that in your program, but it didn't manifest itself until just recently. So I'm going to give you the example. And that is, I wrote a very personal memoir about my life and my family. And I come from a very famous family in Canada. It came out in 2017 to rave reviews, thank God, or I would have been crushed. But my brother, I only have one brother, and he's younger, and he was devastated that the book came out. So he went through a very, very bad time. He completely eliminated me from my life. He took his family and turned them against me. Very, very painful time for both of us. And our families. Yeah, one of those things. It happens, right? We all have family stories. But anyway, just that's the framing of it. And my brother and I have not really talked. We've had a couple of fights over the phone and a very unpleasant lunch together and a few things, and nothing ever resolved. And I just became more entrenched, and he became more entrenched. Well, about a week ago, I decided that that wasn't good enough for me, that I would have to have the sweaty, terrible conversation with him and find out really what pain he was in. So this is where I had to be incredibly vulnerable. And so all day I knew I was going to have sort of a conversation. In the end, we did have it, and it was 2 hours long. And we went into a lot of nooks and crannies that go back to our childhood, even that we've never talked to each other about.
Wow.
And the more vulnerable I became, the more vulnerable he became. And you know what he told me, and I'm getting to my point here, is I learned some things about myself that were very hard to hear. And one of them was, and he said it just like this, he said, "I've been chasing you all my life, Diana."
Oh, wow.
And I said, "Well, what do you mean?" And he said, "Listen, I've been trying to get you into my life, into our family's life. You just keep running away."
Wow.
And when he said that, of course, I was gutted for a minute. And I said back to him the truth. I said, "I've been running away from everybody."
Oh my God, you just gave me goosebumps.
I know, me too again. So the conversation went, on from there. But he learned things about me too, right? That he didn't know. But that was the thing that I went, you know what? When I look at my life, that I did that. I would just never let anybody get too close to me for the reason I told you, the trapped syndrome.
Mm-hmm.
But I didn't realize that my brother, who I figured didn't want to have anything to do with me, didn't really like me anyway, that it wasn't about that. That he was trying so hard and he couldn't get in.
Wow.
And he's right. He was right. So for anybody listening, the benefits of your program they expand afterwards.
Oh my God, you're making me cry.
That's okay, because you should cry. It's so powerful what you do. And for me, it was like, okay, I had to sit with everything that I learned from you and then say, okay, what could I do to expand this? And, with him, it was just like, I want my relationship with my brother to improve. So how do I do that? Right.
Mm-hmm.
And the first step was to have a conversation, and the conversation then opened the door to all of the more blind spots that I had about the relationship. And now I actually feel we've turned a bit of a corner, but I'm going to have to keep coming to the table. And I'm learning that because he's now texting me, and I've got to go. Normally I would back away going, I don't want any more pain.
Mm-hmm.
I said, you have to respond to him. You have to say something. He's coming to you again. Don't do what you did before. So I think what I'm saying, Canoe, is also I'm looking at that with all of my relationships now.
Oh, wow.
Right. And I don't think I could have ever found anybody as a partner without doing this work. Like, if that is in my future, and it may or may not be, but if it is, I have to be able to do that. I have to be able to be that vulnerable. I have to see that I go and run back into my cave when things get hard for me. Without that, no wonder my relationships really haven't worked out. Is at some point I'm going, okay, feeling trapped now, gotta go, right? Well, now I realize, you know what? It wasn't their fault. It wasn't my fault. It was just, I was not really present to who I am and what I could be. So that's a long answer to that one.
Oh my gosh. Oh, what a great answer, though. I definitely put tears into my eyes right now. I'm just so happy for you. I mean, and I just love it because you took the framework and you really, really applied it in your life, and look at all these things that you are now doing, the relationships that you are now mending, and just watch them thrive from here going forward. And I just love that, because a lot of people might go through the program and not do the things that you're doing, and then they say it doesn't work. But you have really taken it very seriously, and you are applying it into your life. And that just brought tears to my eyes.
Well, I think that's true. But just for other people listening, I think it really has a life of its own anyway. I think the power of your program is that, you can't dismiss what you do in your program. You can go through it. I don't think there's a way you can go through it and just say, okay, that was nice. I'll go back to the way I was before. It is like the train has left the station. Mm-hmm. It is the exercises that you do lead you deeper and deeper. And therefore, when you come out of it, you can't help but let things just unfold the way they are. And if they don't, well, then you're blocking it anyway again. But I think you'll be more aware that you are. So either way, I don't think it's that I really, worked on it afterwards really hard. And thank you for thinking that. But I think it is really, to put it back on your plate, it's the power of what you are doing with people has a life of its own.
Oh, well, thank you very much. And that's why, I'm so passionate about this work, and I'm fully dedicating myself to serving a few people a month. And I'm just so grateful to be in this place where I can do this work. So I know you shared, some really great benefits that you got from the program, but are there any other benefits that you want to share?
Well, I think it's just, I'm looking at life very differently, but, I was just sort of thinking that for people listening, there are a lot of younger women, but there are probably also a lot of women in their 50s, 60s, and even 70s who maybe find themselves wanting to do this work, who find themselves alone too. At our age, relationships are breaking up due to COVID. There's quite a bit of that going on. And also, other circumstances where people find themselves alone. And I just wanted to, sort of illustrate that as I have a number of friends who have, and they're still doing it. They're stumbling around from one partner to the next. It's like this desperation to find somebody. And then they get in real deep, real fast, because, we at our age, we've got going, let's get moving. But they get in so fast without actually having done any of this work. And I see them, these relationships aren't lasting very long at all. And it's quite emotional to go through it, especially at our age, right? So I'm sort of, if there's anybody out there who's in sort of that age bracket, I really encourage them that the benefit is that, if you're going to have somebody for the fourth chapter in your life, you want it to be the really the best and perfect person for you, because there's so little time to think, well, this is a lifetime here, and I definitely didn't want to do that. And I thought, if I find somebody now, I want that person to have those values, to see my vulnerability, to know where my blind spots are, so that we can build from a different plan. I wanted to get right to the heart of the matter. What does love mean? What does it really mean to me? How do I want to show up in my life? So, if I were to say to people, this is not a dating service that you're providing. You can still do that if you want to, but this is probably an even more important piece, is to take a journey into the subject of love and get clear about the role that it plays in your life, or you want to play it in your life, right? Yeah.
Oh my gosh, I love this so much. I'm so grateful. It just affirms me that I'm on the right path to serve and help, women, and hopefully soon men as well. To really, really break the barriers, whatever they are for them, that are stopping them from really finding that picture perfect love.
Yeah.
And, if they get what you're sharing, because you haven't found that love yet, but you have had so many benefits from it. If they find those benefits as well, then you know what? I'm grateful for that too. So, yeah.
Well, and there's so much love in my life now, it's just, I really see it. And sometimes it's still hard for me to take it in, but I realize it now. I'm going, okay, no, come to the table,
Right.
Just come to the table. So it's really never too late. I think is my point for anybody over 50. It's never too late to take this journey. And matter of fact, I don't want to leave this land, this planet, without having done this work. It's already changing my life, and it's going to change whatever time I have left. And hopefully it's quite a long time. But, I think it's so important. Like, you just don't want to waste a minute now. Yeah.
Yeah. I'm glad you shared that advice for that age group, because oftentimes what I hear from people in that age, maybe 60 and up, one thing that I hear is, I'm not going to find love anymore.
Exactly.
I'm set in my ways. I don't need to change anything, or, so that was going to be my question, but you answered it great by giving that advice for those, for that age bracket.
Well, and also for younger people, I think, because I mentor a lot of younger women, as you do, I would also put that and say, I wish I'd known this years and years and years ago. I wish I'd done this program when I was 22 or 25 or 35 or whatever it would have taken, because it would have changed the trajectory of my life for sure. Because I would have realized, that I was in this particular situation of where I couldn't take it in. And I would have been able to look at that much more clinically and be able to say, okay, I want love. Everybody does. That's the thing. We all want love.
Yeah, it's an inherent need, right?
Yeah, but how receptive are we really to it? And I think a lot of women, we build these big cocoons around ourselves to protect ourselves. And sometimes it's not serving us the way it should, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
And what else is there? Like, you're in the business that is the most important thing. I think all of us realizing after this year that we've had, which continues a little bit too, is that there's nothing else. It's not about work. It's not about travel. It's not about, all the accomplishments that we make. Those are great and we should do them, but it's all about love in the end. It's the one thing that we all are here to have. So it's the most important thing to work on, in my opinion. Yeah.
Well, Diana, you were the perfect client. I just, like I said, I'm so grateful that I got to work with you.
And me as well.
So was there anything else that you were hoping I would ask you that you want to share that I haven't already asked you?
No, I guess just never too late. Never too late. Never too late to get started on this.
That is very true. That is very true.
And thank you, because, I had to bring you coming into my life. It was, as you know, it was just kind of happenstance. And that's the way things work. You attract it when you're ready.
Right. Yeah. Well, I am so grateful. It was such an honor to work with you. And my heart is smiling and happy that, hearing all these things that are happening for you. And, I wish you all the love in the world. And, that you come back and we have a different session of telling me about, all the love that you have manifested in your life to hear more about.
I can do that. So tell people to run, don't walk, to the ultimate Love Attractor Plan.
Well, thank you. Thank you so much. I appreciate you.
Welcome. Have a wonderful day.
Love always. Thank you so much for listening, and all the way to the end. I am genuinely so grateful. So now you can continue to show your support in a few different ways. The first one is, if you can think of someone who might benefit from this episode, please send it to them. And the second thing is, we all are on social media, Facebook, Instagram, and the like. So please share this episode. And I love it when people tag me to their post. And 3, head over to iTunes. You can leave a review and you can rate this episode. All your feedback is very helpful, and it helps this podcast get visible so others can listen to all these great stories. Thank you so much. Till next time.